Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory. I'm Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers. And Jack, the Diamondbacks have swept the Seattle Mariners after being swept by the Cincinnati Reds and sweeping the Atlanta Braves in the series before that. They found a way to close the deal here on Wednesday afternoon. The big story, of course, in this one, Jack, Eugenio Suarez with a go-ahead grand slam that ultimately put the Diamondbacks up for good.
I think we need a Sarah Lang's "we" just for the season arc, not only the game arcs.
Yeah, I think that's fair. This game was very much trending in a kind of familiar way, especially for Eduardo Rodriguez, a game where he was pitching pretty well. The defense did not do him any favors in that first inning. Ketel Marte should have turned an inning-ending double play. He was not able to do that. Eduardo wound up giving up a run in that inning that he theoretically would not have given up otherwise. And the Diamondbacks just couldn't get anything going against Bryan Woo. And it was kind of setting up as a game where the offense was not going to show up and Eduardo was going to walk away with a loss in a game that he actually pitched decently well. While he has not been great on the season as a whole, he's had a number of those games this season. But yeah, I mean, what do you say about Eugenio Suarez, Jack? He is now at 19 home runs and 52 RBI for the season. I tweeted it out earlier. He is on pace for 45 home runs and 124 RBIs this season. That'll play.
That's quite remarkable. He's also number 3 now on the all-time Venezuelan player home run list, and he's 5 away from 300. So it's been a remarkable career. He's a very proud day for him. We just had a nice interview with him, and he's extremely proud of what he was able to do for his country and for his team and his family. And, you know, Gino, it was all very heartfelt as usual, but about as genuine and sincere as it gets. You know, he also spoke about the importance of the win and everything, but for him, it was a big day. It was such a huge moment. I mean, down 2-0. But they loaded the bases, and you just kind of felt it coming. You knew he was due. He was really struggling, you know, in the first game of the series, and then his last at bat last night, I kind of felt like, you know, I think he's kind of coming back around, and so I wasn't surprised to see him launch one today.
That was Gino's third grand slam this season, which leads all of baseball. They also had a crazy stat on the broadcast. The Diamondbacks are the first team in Major League history to have 8 grand slams in their first 68 games of a season. First team in Major League history. That's pretty remarkable stuff. Of course, Josh Naylor contributed to that with the walk-off grand slam in the first game of this series. We'll circle back around to that a little bit later in the show. But yeah, beyond Eugenio Suarez, Jack, the other big narrative in this game is that Eduardo Rodriguez looked genuinely good. This was not a fluke by any means. These were not laser beams hit right at guys. It was a lot of soft contact. It was 1 walk to 5 strikeouts. He was able to pitch into the 7th inning despite being on a fairly tight pitch count limit. This is the version of Eduardo Rodriguez that the Diamondbacks need the rest of the way.
For sure. Torey talked about, you know, pitchability, and he said this is, you know, what Erod looks like when he's at his best. You know, Erod himself, he said after the game that he didn't feel like he had his best velocity, but he certainly had his best location. And he also said that he feels 100%, which is something he hadn't felt in quite some time. So just the rest and the downtime and then rehabbing, now he feels 100% with the shoulder. And, you know, if this is what the D-backs are able to get out of him for the rest of the season, or, you know, 4 times out of 5 or 3 out of 5, you know, that'll go a long way to making up for the shortfall that they're probably going to experience with the loss of Corbin Burns. So, you know, this is definitely a step-up moment, a step-up game for Eduardo Rodriguez, and something that the team really needed.
You think this was his best start as a Diamondback? I guess maybe the other one that comes to mind is the Rockies game last year, 6 1/3. I think that was also 2 runs. He had 11 strikeouts in that game. But I think the Mariners may be a slightly more formidable offense than the Rockies.
Yeah, I would say that, and also just the, you know, the situation and the importance of it. You know, getting this team back to 500, setting them up for a very confident and relaxing off day, and then heading into the Padres series. So I think all things considered, with all the injuries that they've had and just how badly they needed this from him, and us too. Hey, we get to talk after a win. Where is this 2 in a row now?
Yeah. I mean, Eduardo has been good in both of his outings off the IL, so we'll see if he's able to continue that trend. Yeah, I mean, just all the way around, Jack, a pretty nice win here for the Diamondbacks as they move back to 500. They just kind of keep teeter-tottering between the sky is falling and the season is over. And oh wait, maybe the season isn't over. Maybe they're actually going to jump back in it. And this was a series that certainly changed the narrative once again.
Yeah, I mean, they played really good baseball for these 3 games. I mean, obviously they had quite a significant hiccup in the 9th inning with the injury with Justin Martinez, and then Jeff Brigham. Tough break for him, actually, in a way. I feel kind of bad for Jeff Brigham because he had warmed up in the bottom of the 8th inning alongside Martinez. Had they scored and they had an opportunity to score, he would have just come in and J Mart would have sat down.
Right.
Instead, he sat down. J Mart gets 2 outs. Now Brigham's been sitting for 10, 15 minutes, over 10 minutes, and he cooled back off. And now he's got to get up and get hot again. And unfortunately for him and the team, it didn't work out. But prior to that, I thought he was actually throwing the ball kind of well, kind of not too bad. But they had to make space. Corbin Barrels says something interesting in the chat. I feel like all 3 of these were actual solid wins. I definitely agree with that. I mean, they played well these 3 games. Even in that Braves series, they didn't play as good as they played in this series, I think. And
yeah.
Torey Lovullo said the same thing post-game. He was really pleased with just the overall, piece together efforts in all 3 games.
The Diamondbacks haven't made an error in 6 consecutive games, which oftentimes with this franchise, that hasn't been something we've paid super close attention to because it felt like they just kind of never made errors. But it's been a different story this year, and the defense has really tightened things up, especially in the game yesterday with Brandon Pfaadt on the mound as he gave up a decent amount of hard contact. The defense really helped him out on several different occasions. Lourdes Gurriel, robbing at least an extra base hit, but potentially a home run of Cal Raleigh. The defense has really stepped things up lately. Other standouts from this game, Jack, is the Diamondbacks win the finale 5-2. We mentioned Gino. It wasn't just the grand slam for him. He went 3 for 4 in the game overall. Pavin Smith also homered in this game. He went 1 for 3 with that solo shot, his first homer since April 22nd. Pavin has had some good at-bats lately, but we have not seen much power from him at all here lately.
Yeah, it's been quite a long slog for him, quite frankly. I mean, it's been a long, slow decline, and both his batting average and his on base. I mean, we knew the batting average was going to come down. I think at one point in April, he had like over a 500 BABIP or something ridiculous like that. We talked about last time, I think we might have talked last time, his projections. I had put up a post on Twitter today, just a little while before he hit the home run, posting his Fangraphs projection, which was a 249 batting average and I think 748 OPS, and it worked out to a 110 WRC plus, or approximately 10% better than a league average hitter. And so the question was asked, is this projection in the neighborhood? Is it too high? Is it too low? And about half thought it was about right, and about half thought it was too high. Thank you, Twitter.
Yeah, I think I could have predicted that it'd be a decent
that result was
in
predictable.
That category. Yeah, pretty predictable. But yeah, good to see Pavin get into one there. Diamondbacks certainly need him to pick things up, right? I mean, he's their designated hitter the vast majority of the time, and he's been further down in the lineup here for a while now, to where he's had him locked into that number 7 spot for the most part here lately as he's worked through some of these struggles. But yeah, I mean, you need your designated hitter to hit for some power, right? And we haven't seen much of that from Pavin lately. Hopefully for the Diamondbacks, that turns things around here with that home run that he had today. We're going to get into some more takeaways from this series as a whole as the Diamondbacks finish off the Seattle Mariners with a 3-game sweep. But first, a few words from the guys over at Foul Territory.
If you're one of those on-the-go people or you're skipping meals but you don't want to, there's got to be a quicker solution. We've got one for you. It's called Huel. I'm going to take a swig. Cheers to Huel. This is the Black Edition, plant-based as well. Good for me. But what do you like about it?
I like the nutrition of it, and the replacement meal is great for me. Someone always on the go. Like, man, I can just grab one of these out of my fridge, lunch, breakfast, whatever it takes. Whatever meal I'm not going to have time to eat, it fills me up. And it tastes great. You know why? Because it tastes like milkshake, ice cream, whatever you want to call it, whatever flavor you get is delicious.
35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 27 vitamins and minerals, low sugar. You can get yourself 15% off plus a free gift for new customers using the exclusive FT code FOUL, F-O-U-L, at Huel.com/FOUL. Please see our description for terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition, bottled.
We are back here on Snakes Territory talking about this Diamondbacks 3-game sweep of the Seattle Mariners. And Jack, we talked about how good Erod was in the game today, but really Merrill Kelly set the tone for this series in the game on Monday. Out of all 3 games, that one really feels like the one that very easily could have gone south for this team. Very nearly went south for them in the later innings. But Merrill was outstanding with 6 scoreless innings and continues to really carry the Diamondbacks rotation, especially now that Corbin Burnes is not in the picture.
Yeah, Merrill was fantastic again. I mean, he's just such a consistent pitcher. It's amazing to watch. Every single time he goes out, it feels like he's going to reel off, 5 straight scoreless, hitless innings at some point in the game. And he gave him 6 scoreless in this game. I mean, it's just really, he's the ace of the staff. Another Twitter poll I put up, sorry, I've been kind of on a run with those lately.
We love it.
Was who's going to be the opening day starter for the Diamondbacks in 2026? It was Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, Eduardo Rodriguez, or someone else. And someone else won that poll, not in a landslide, but a plurality of about high 40s, 47, 48%. And in the comments, it was like straight chalk. Everyone was like Merrill Kelly. Everyone's expecting the team to be able to bring him back. Kind of looked at the John Flaherty example as a potential contract structure. He was younger, so the numbers may be different, but there's a arena there where you sign Merrill for 2 years with a much lower number in the second year, but an escalator clause based on starts made and also an opt-out for Merrill. So, there's a way to do this if they want to, or, maybe just go straight chalk and go, hey, 2 years, $30 million and roll the dice. But I did look up a lot of, last 4 or 5 years, other than former Cy Young winners like, Verlander and Scherzer and DeGrom, nobody 37 or older is getting multi-year deals. They're just not. So it's going to be really interesting offseason with him. But he doesn't look old. He doesn't pitch old. So, maybe his repertoire is, he's not dependent on the high heat. If he can keep throwing 91, he's fine with 6 pitches.
We're probably getting a little ahead of ourselves by, diving into some of the guys who are free agents this offseason. But while we're on the topic, I think for me, Jack, out of all of the Diamondbacks players who are on expiring contracts, which is a lot of them, right? It's Eugenio Suarez, it's Josh Naylor, it's Zach Gallen, it's Merrill Kelly. There's other guys on that list as well, Shelby Miller. I think Merrill is probably the most likely in my mind to return to the Diamondbacks. That is not based on any inside information. It's just based on the fact that Merrill has already signed extensions with the Diamondbacks in the past. And he really has seemed to like pitching in Arizona. I've never heard Merrill Kelly express anything otherwise. And of course, he's spent a good portion of his time growing up in Arizona as well. So he has ties to the area. this seems like something that could realistically happen. The Diamondbacks are going to have rotation spots to fill this offseason, right? They're going to probably have to fill at least 2 rotation spots based on Corbin Burns being hurt and some of the guys leaving in free agency. Merrill Kelly, to me, seems like that makes a lot of sense. You're not going to pay a ton because of where he's at age-wise, and I think he's still a pretty good pitcher in this league.
Well, I mean, taking devil's advocate on this one, if there's a team out there that ups the ante on him, the Diamondbacks could get outbid because they're kind of locked in to a lot of contracts, unfortunately, and a pretty high payroll. Even though they're losing a lot of free agents, much of that savings is going to be mitigated by escalators and guys that they signed to extensions, as well as more guys reaching ARB2 and ARB3. So, it's not like, well, they lose all these free agents and they have all this money to spend. It's actually less than half of the money that's coming off is going to be available because you're increasing elsewhere. So, they could be outbid on him, or, worst case scenario, if the D-backs flounder in the second half and fall well short of the playoffs and don't look and feel like a playoff team and they end up trading him, he may say, you know what, I've only got a couple years left. I want to play on a team that's likely going to the postseason. So, there's a lot of different scenarios and a long way to go here. That's why I didn't include his name in the poll. I mean, I think we all agree everybody wants Merrill Kelly to come back. And I can certainly see Merrill Kelly wanting to come back, but the conditions have to be right. The money has to be right. The team has to look like a team that's a threat to go back to the playoffs and do some damage. I think all those things need to fall in place for that to actually happen.
I definitely agree with you that, like, in theory, the Diamondbacks could be outbid on Merrill Kelly. At the same time, I'm also wondering, they have to fill out their starting rotation somehow, right? And starting pitching is generally kind of expensive. Like, you're probably not gonna find a guy on the open market for 1 year $5 million or whatever that is. So obviously there's so many different ways that this could turn out. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves with this conversation, but I don't know, Jack.
That's okay.
To me, they're gonna have to
my
spend
smile.
some money.
My smirk and my smile, so something's coming.
Exactly.
Remember our discussions about Christian Walker, and you were insistent that they were going to re-sign him because what else are they going to do? They have to re-sign him. They don't have anybody else at first base. So my cautionary tale here is it's a 50-50 ball, flip a coin. There's really no way to handicap this accurately at this time.
Yeah, that's very fair. Brandon Pfaadt was better in his outing on Tuesday, far better than he was his previous 2 times out. There was still quite a bit of hard contact in that game, Jack, but 5 innings, 9 hits allowed. He was able to limit the Mariners to 2 runs with some help from some very good Diamondbacks defense behind him, walk and 4 strikeouts in that game. Felt like a step in the right direction, Jack, for sure. At the same time, he kind of got hammered at times. I think the Mariners' expected batting average when he left the game was .401. So as much as it was a step in the right direction for Pfaadt, I think there's still some work to be done there.
Yeah, I mean, he gave up 9 hits off all that hard contact, and there were several outstanding plays. I mean, Gurriel robbed a homer. Josh Naylor robbed extra bases that would have scored runs. I think there was one other that my brain is slipping at the moment. I think there were at least 3 plays that were made that saved runs for him. So, that results line is a little bit misleading when it comes to evaluating how well he pitched, but he threw strikes. He did get 4 strikeouts. He did get some swing and miss too. So, certainly a step in the right direction compared to what was going on before. But this start felt a little bit like some of the starts before the meltdown, where we were like, something's wrong here, waiting for the shoe to drop.
Right.
Well, the shoe dropped, and now he's kind of back on the other side of that. So he's still got a lot of work to do, but definitely a step forward.
The Mariners, I think it was maybe 7 left-handed hitters that they had in the lineup. It was either 6 or 7. It was definitely majority left-handed hitters. And that's been a big trend against Pfaadt this season, Jack. I don't know if somehow he's just gotten kind of unlucky on this front. Certainly teams are going to stack lineups against him with lefties as best as they can. But this season, he has had 198 plate appearances against him from left-handed hitters compared to just 112 from righties. And again, like, no secret, if you're a manager and you're facing Brandon Pfaadt, there's no question at this point that he tends to have pretty heavy splits, and you want as many lefties in there as you possibly can have. However, the majority of baseball players bat right-handed, so it is still kind of uncanny to me that at this point in the year, he's faced about 2/3 left-handed hitters compared to last season where it was about 50-50. And in his rookie season, he faced more righties than he did lefties. I guess the other part of this equation, though, Jack, is that, you know, maybe he has gotten kind of the short end of the stick with how many lefties he's had to face, but he hasn't really been able to get righties out this year at nearly the clip that we're used to seeing. His splits this year are there, but they're really not very significant. He has an 826 OPS against for right-handed hitters compared to 865 against lefties. And that's why, for me, I'm kind of less concerned about Brandon Pfaadt against lefties right now as I am against righties. Like, that is his bread and butter. That's where the sweeper needs to play like an elite pitch. And it's just felt like he hasn't had much of a feel for that pitch here, really for a good majority of the season.
Yeah, actually, that, pardon me. Actually, that split was like 600, 800 earlier in the year. And then going into his previous start, all of a sudden it was dead even. It was like 274 versus 275 batting average and 820 versus 822 OPS. I'm like, what? It's exactly. I was shocked to see it exactly the same. There had been a 200-point split. So somewhere in those two disastrous outings, a lot of, you know, damage was done by right-handed hitters that kind of pulled that split even. As far as the high platoon disadvantage, you know, platoon advantage, disadvantage, I think you said roughly 2/3, 64%, something like that. That is a little bit of an oddity. I mean, you know, it's not that unusual for it to go 55-45 if teams sense that it's better to just put a mediocre left-handed bat in there as opposed to your better right-handed bat. You know, oh, this is the day we're going to give the right-handed guy the day off and get our lefty in there. But maybe there is just a thing where the schedule that they've faced and the teams that he's faced happen to have a lot more bench lefties that are, you know, playable, that they were able to stick in there. Or does any lefty become playable against him right now? You know, that's the other question.
Switching gears over to the offense, Josh Naylor obviously hit the big walk-off grand slam in the game on Monday. But beyond that, Jack, he just had a really good series overall. He was 8 for 12. He also had 2 doubles, 6 runs batted in when all was said and done. Naylor is certainly a big part of this offense, occupying the cleanup spot on a daily basis, and he has lived up to the bill here over the past few days.
Absolutely. I mean, I tweeted out during the game, you know, it's June 11th and Josh Naylor is hitting 300 with an 820 OPS. I think he made out a couple times after that. So the average might have dipped under. I'm going to say a word about Josh Naylor because of all the kerfuffle that was going on online. I'm just going to debunk it. I'm just going to straight out debunk it. It's everything you read, and I'm not going to say by who, is BS. I walked into that clubhouse and Josh Naylor and Geraldo Perdomo were huddled together, looking at Jerry's phone, laughing their ass off, horsing around, having fun. The whole thing that he did on the broadcast, it's a shtick. He's done it before. And once they saw the media coming over, Jerry kind of slid away. Josh turns around and goes stone face and just did the whole deadpan post-game interview. I mean, that's who he is. It's a shtick. It's a bit. You know, maybe he doesn't like the media all that much. That's very possible. But, you know, the fact is that whether or not, you know, is he as emotionally connected here as he was after all those years in Cleveland? Probably not. He knows he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. But, you know, people trying to hold up that, you know, the messing around that they were doing with Jerry pouring water all over him in the post game, that has nothing to do with this clubhouse. I'm not defending anybody. I'm just telling you the facts. They're friends. They were messing around. They were laughing. There was no fight. and there isn't a fight. And anybody that's trying to parlay that into something else for engagement or whatever is doing just that. They're not in the clubhouse. I am. I'm not lying to you, period. End of flipping story.
We've seen some sketchy narratives float around on Diamondbacks Twitter over the course of the past few months. Some things that seemed speculative at best. And that was perhaps one of the worst ones that I've seen so far. I haven't interacted with Josh Naylor a whole lot, certainly not as much as you have, but it seemed very obvious that was just sort of a fun kind of deadpan thing that he was doing in that moment. So yeah, I think we can put that narrative to bed once and for all. Alek Thomas also had a really good series here, Jack, 6 for 12 with that home run in the second game of the series. He also had a double in this game here today, as well as a stolen base in the series. This is a guy who I don't think the Diamondbacks necessarily need Alek Thomas to be great offensively in order for their offense to play. They have enough good hitters at the top of the lineup. They're going to score runs, frankly, whether Alek Thomas is hitting well or not. But it certainly helps when Alek Thomas near the bottom of the lineup is giving you about league average production. And with this surge that he's been on recently, that's basically where he stands this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see he's getting the ball off the ground. I mean, his ground ball percentage was nearly 60% up until 10 days ago. And now all of a sudden it's back down under 55, which is still high for the whole season. But to drop that rate 5% is significant. I mean, he's elevating the ball, obviously. Home runs, extra base hits, and he's stinging. He's still going to hit some ground balls, and he's always going to hit more ground balls than the average player. But if Alek Thomas is, headed towards a 50% ground ball rate, then he's easily a league average hitter. It's the only thing that's ever held him back. And he could be more than that.
Good signs for Alek Thomas for sure. Big series win, big series sweep here for the Diamondbacks overall. But of course, Jack, because it's the 2025 Arizona Diamondbacks and it feels sometimes like they can't have nice things, this series sweep did come with the very bad news that Justin Martinez might be in for potentially Tommy John surgery. We're going to talk about the latest about Justin Martinez as well as preview the upcoming series against the San Diego Padres right after this final break here on Snakes Territory.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it. But I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card-related.
It is. And right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
Like I said, Jack, the Diamondbacks can't have nice things, at least not in 2025. And Justin Martinez exited that game on Monday after looking pretty good. It looked like the Diamondbacks were maybe going to coast to a 4-0 win. He struck out the first two batters he faced in the ninth inning, and then he issued a walk, was removed from the game. A runner at first with 2 outs, still a situation that you feel like you're in a pretty good spot to win. And of course, the Diamondbacks bullpen wound up allowing 4 runs in that inning. It went to extra innings. Josh Naylor, fortunately for them, picked them up with that walk-off grand slam. But yeah, Justin Martinez immediately went on the 15-day IL, Jack. We know that he is currently seeking a second opinion, but I think we can be real here and say that Tommy John surgery very much appears to be on the table.
It's certainly possible. I mean, he's getting a second opinions. And the interesting thing here, Torey drew a slight distinction between Corbin Burnes getting second opinions and Justin Martinez in that Corbin Burnes went to LA and met with the doctor beforehand. Whereas in this case, the digital images of the MRI were being sent to maybe a couple different physicians to take a look at. But again, no idea if that's meaning that they're confirming that it's going to have to be surgery or not. And the only thing I can say is that the fact that they didn't put him immediately on a 60-day IL to save the roster spot means that they may be holding out hope that they can avoid surgery. I think the fact that he's had Tommy John once already is going to push them towards wanting to be more conservative if the player is amenable to that. And I think this is a very different situation than Corbin Burns. Yes, Justin was signed to an extension, but I think the team has a little bit more influence here in the decision. And so if the team wants to go the conservative route and not lose him for the next year and a half, I can see them being influential in that regard if it's a 50-50 ball. But we don't know. I would expect to hear sometime on Friday what the direction is. That's my expectation there, but we'll see. We should know by Friday. It may leak out tomorrow. Gambo will probably have it on Thursday. Or maybe they'll give it to Nick, or maybe we'll wait until Friday and Gambo will tell, Torrey will tell Gambo on air on Friday afternoon. But, we'll have to just wait and see on that. And, the other case, Dioka, I don't think that he's going to need surgery. It doesn't look like it. His situation, it's unfortunate there too. I mean, he threw 46 pitches, he shouldn't have had to throw that many.
Yeah.
And went 2 2/3, 46 pitches. It was more than he'd thrown before, and boom, the guy gets hurt. I think the outing before Justin threw, wasn't that 37 pitch outing? The one before he got hurt? Or was it one in between?
I'm not totally sure. I'd have to double check that.
I believe his previous outing was a 37 pitch outing, but I'm not 100% certain.
You mentioned J Mart has had Tommy John surgery before, right? That happened while he was coming up through the farm system back in 2021. I do find it, not that this has much bearing on the decision process right now, but I do think it's interesting, Jack, that according to Nick Picoro, back when Justin Martinez signed his extension before the season started, there actually is, his contract changes a little bit if he has elbow surgery. The Diamondbacks get an additional club option for $3 million in an additional year on this contract if Justin Martinez has elbow surgery at any point during the deal. So, I think probably either he really needs it or he doesn't. Maybe the Diamondbacks want to play things more conservatively. I doubt that will have much bearing on this decision. But yeah, I mean, this is at the very least, Jack. It's hard to imagine Justin Martinez pitching in a big way for the Diamondbacks the rest of the way. I mean, do you think it's crazy for me to say that we might be looking at the very best a kind of diminished version of him? I mean, maybe there's a way he could rehab this and still get back toward the end of the season, but it seems like you're not going to expect much from J Mart for the rest of the year, even if he isn't having Tommy John surgery.
I believe that when they say sprained UCL, isn't that the same injury that Bryce Jarvis had? I believe it was sprained. That's the way they described it.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
he ended up missing, the rest of the season, but it was like three months or less to the season to go. It was like mid-July when he went down, right? So there were 2.5 months left in the season when he went down. So, it's possible that it doesn't require surgery, but he could be out 3 months, and then who knows what you get when you get him back in mid-September,
Yeah, right. El Gallo is helping us out in the chat here with Justin Martinez, and I also have it pulled up. It was 37 pitches for J Mart in his outing prior to that one on Monday, but as El Gallo points out, he was on 5 days rest, so the Diamondbacks gave him quite a bit of time to rest up after that outing. Still, you never really want a high leverage reliever throwing 37 pitches in any outing if you can avoid it. So. Yeah, tough situation for the Diamondbacks. Obviously, A.J. Puk they've missed throughout most of the season. Figure A.J. Puk could maybe come back here at some point soon. But the dream of having Justin Martinez and A.J. Puk, Jack, kind of anchoring the back end of this bullpen, it's a little hard to imagine that we're going to see those two guys operating at full strength at some point this year.
Yes, that's correct. Thank God for Shelby Miller. I mean, he was very good again today. For Shelby Miller, I really hope that the Diamondbacks stay in the race and don't sell for his sake, because he's got a chance to go out and, rack up 25 saves and really get paid next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Shelby has been.
If he gets traded, he's probably going to end up in a setup role. He'll probably get traded to a contender that has a closer.
Right.
and maybe would end up closing games if somebody got hurt. But, if he stays here and the team stays in contention, and the D-backs have had a lot of save opportunities. I mean, they're in the top few of teams of actual save opportunities. It's just kind of despite all of the high-scoring games that they play, they've had a lot of save opportunities. So he could get 25, maybe even get to 30. Who knows? I mean, it's a situation where he could end up making, pretty big bank off of this season.
And in the chat, the basketball and football guy asked also, do we know how close AJ Puck is to returning? Is that something you've heard an update on recently, Jack?
Yes. So he's still flat ground only. And Torrey refused to speculate on how long it would take once he gets up on a mound to get him back in. Now, today's June 11th. He's throwing at flat ground out to 120 feet, has not thrown from a bullpen mound yet. It sounds like that's probably at least another throwing session or two away. And then from the time he gets up on the mound, just based on our past experience, I mean, yes, he's a reliever and doesn't have to get up to a starter's workload, but we're still looking at 3 weeks minimum from the time he gets on the mound. You got multiple bullpens, live BP sessions, maybe an ACL, Arizona Complex League outing or two, and then maybe want to get him into a live game action. All of this takes time. I would be shocked at this point if he's back before the 4th of July. And if you're getting that close, you may be looking at post-All-Star break. Torrey was very clear today that they're taking a very conservative approach with him. He wouldn't put a date on it. That those July dates I gave were my speculation, not the team's. But Torrey made it very clear that they're going to be very conservative. So you read the tea leaves a little bit. He's not coming back before the end of June. And once you get into July, maybe they end up just pushing it back till post-All-Star break. He could get back first week of July, maybe before they take the break. I think they play the Padres in San Diego July 7th. And, they play out that week before they head out to the Atlanta All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand the Diamondbacks wanting to be conservative there, especially if Justin Martinez is going to be out, potentially for the rest of the season. You very much want AJ Puck to take his time and, be able to put his best foot forward the rest of the way. Before we get out of here, we did want to take a quick look at the Diamondbacks' upcoming series against the San Diego Padres. As the Padres just, as of a couple minutes ago here, lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers at home. They are now 38-29 on the season, not 38-28 as you see on the screen here. But the Padres this year, Jack, somehow this is the first time the Diamondbacks will be playing them, which is wild. We're talking about playing a divisional opponent for the first time here in mid-June. But they have stayed afloat very nicely. They lost some significant pieces over the offseason, but as I said, they're 38-29, and so far they've pretty much been everything that I think Padres fans could have hoped for.
Yeah, another tough series, of course. I think that the D-backs might be catching him at a good time. I'm not sure. I just think that they may be a little bit down after, losing that game in L.A. D-backs are going to be well rested. Their pen's going to be fully rested. They have a shot here. Nelson, Gallen, Kelly. I mean, they've got 3 good pitchers going. So we'll see. First of 13 games head-to-head starting in June 11th. That's a lot of games to play against a divisional opponent. They still got 10 more against the Giants, by the way, and 6 more against the Dodgers.
Yeah, crazy. And I think this Dodgers-Padres series that we just had played in San Diego, that was the first time those two teams have seen each other this year as well. So for whatever reason, the way the schedule worked out this year, a lot of these NL West matchups are not really getting going until well into the season here. You mentioned the Diamondbacks have Ryan Nelson, Zach Gallen, and Merrill Kelly going this weekend. Over on the Padres side, the Diamondbacks do avoid some of the headliner names there in that Padres rotation. They will face Stephen Kolek in the game on Friday, and then Ryan Bergert on Saturday, and then Nick Pivetta goes against Merrill Kelly on Sunday. Somehow, Jack, I don't know how the Padres keep doing this, but they have a number of guys who've spent time in their rotation that have just horrendous peripheral numbers and yet have really good ERAs. Stephen Kolek is kind of one of those guys. I guess his peripherals aren't that bad, but he has a 3.00 ERA this year in 7 starts, covering 42 innings. So he's averaging 6 innings, 2 runs per start, even though his peripherals are definitely not that good. And then Ryan Bergert has spent most of the season pitching out of the bullpen. He's only appeared in 6 games this year, recently transitioned to the Padres rotation, has been very good in both of his starts so far. He has an ERA of 1.26 this year, and granted, just 14 and a third innings, but he has 6 walks compared to 8 strikeouts in those 14 and a third innings, and he's allowed 2 runs. And then Nick Pivetta is a genuinely solid starting pitcher. Nice pickup for the Padres. But yeah, I don't know how they're doing it, Jack. I mean, this is a team that is, their starting pitching depth is very shaky, and yet they haven't really felt the effects of that because guys like Kolek and Bergerts and Randy Vasquez are somehow putting up really solid numbers for them.
Well, lucky for them, regression to the mean is not a thing.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wait.
Well, maybe it isn't, Jack. I don't know. Maybe the Padres have found some sort of a loop in the system or something. It seems like regression to the mean is not a thing for them right now. On the offense side, though, Manny Machado is having a really good year for them. As of mid-game against the Dodgers today, he was at 10 home runs and an 898 OPS for the season. Jackson Merrill is doing his thing, coming off his awesome rookie season, 5 homers and an 820 OPS there. Fernando Tatis has cooled off quite a bit lately, but his OPS is hovering right around 800 with, of course, great defense in the outfield as well. So should be a fun series over the weekend. It's a big one, of course, for the Diamondbacks, as the Padres are one of a number of teams that they're chasing in the wild card situation right now. Last season, the Diamondbacks went 6-7 against the Padres, Jack. And I remember several of those games that the Diamondbacks very much had a chance to win, and unfortunately were not able to, especially, the mind always goes to that last series of the year when they just were not able to get the job done.
Well, now that they have a brand new lockdown bullpen, I think the D-backs' chances have improved.
We'll see about that. Shelby Miller has been great. Jalen Beeks has kind of locked things down here lately. Juan Murillo has come through in some big spots, even though it seems like he's pretty much guaranteed to issue at least one walk every time he goes out. But the Diamondbacks bullpen was able to get the job done in this Mariners series. And of course, the team as a whole was able to get the job done with a series sweep against the Seattle Mariners. And that is all that we have in this episode of Snakes Territory. Really appreciate all of you being here with us live in the chat or watching after the fact. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment if you're joining us after the live show. We always love hearing from you there. You can also find us over on social media. I am at Jesse N. Friedman over on X. Jack is at ShoeWizard59, and our show is at Snakes Territory. Jack does a great job covering the Diamondbacks over at Arizona Diamondbacks on SI. You can find his work at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. Jack, any final thoughts here before we say goodbye after this D-back series sweep?
Please like and subscribe. Subscribe. We really need it, folks. It really help us keep this thing going.
We're very close to 800, so we would very much appreciate you subscribing over on YouTube if you haven't done that already. Well, thank you again to all of you joining us here in the chat. We really appreciate your time, and we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory here, I believe, tomorrow evening. So be sure to keep a lookout for that.